If you want to write a book, you need a coach that's in your corner. Today, I'm chatting with Amy Vogel. Amy began her career in tech sales. She became a minister, and then she became an author at the age of 42. Amy now has 5 published books, and she is a women's book coach. Amy is dedicated to empowering women to share their stories, helping them cast a vision for a better world by turning their publishing dreams into reality. Are you ready to quit your 9 to 5 job and start a business of your own? Well, you're in the right place, my friend. Welcome to the Second Act Success podcast. I am your host, Shannon Russell, and my mission is to help you produce your best life. This podcast will teach you how to get from where you are now to where you want to be, and how to build a business that fits your life and lights you up. Let's get started. Amy Vogel, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk to you about all of your acts leading up to now in your career. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I love being a guest on podcasts, especially for women who are thinking about their story, thinking about what is next for them, and that's what you're all about. So I'm looking forward to this.
Thanks. Yeah, and you have so much to offer, especially for any listeners who are thinking about writing a book and how it's never too late to do that. But let's start off with where your career first began.
Way back in the 90s, when I graduated from college, I graduated with a pre-med degree, and that was when pharmaceutical sales was really blowing up. So that was my idea. I didn't want to go to med school. So I got a job as an IT recruiter, and my dad was horrified. He was like, "You're taking a draw. You're actually paying to work there." But he went with it, and it ended up being a really successful career. I'm a natural in sales. Recruiting is basically selling people for positions to companies. So I did that for 5 years, got married, decided that the dot-com bubble was about to burst, so tech companies were better to work for rather than recruiting, and then the compensation was lessening, especially on my side. I was doing full-time placement. So I went into technology sales, learned the ropes, spent 2 or 3 years in inside sales, then moved into outside sales. And then by that time, I had 2 little girls, and I did not want to be away from them for the best part of their day, right? I realized that one day. I was like, I get them when they're tired in the morning and in the evening. And so it took about 18 months for things to work out, but I eventually started staying home with them, and I ended up being home with them for 9-ish years. In that time, I figured out I needed something for myself. I'm Gen X, so, we were raised to bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, do all of those things. But I knew I needed something for myself because I was driving everyone crazy. While my girls were napping, because they were still little at this time, I just started writing a blog. This was in my mid-30s. I didn't really think it was going to go anywhere. Then I was very involved in the church where we were, and they started asking me to write Bible studies and lead Bible studies. It's funny how when you're in sales and used to presenting, people pick up on that and invite you to do those things. So things evolve without me even realizing it. I recently wrote a chapter for an anthology that's kind of a little bit autobiographical, kind of my journey, and I called it Holy Stumbler because I tend to stumble into the things that I'm meant to be doing, and it's true. It's true.
That's a great
Yes.
gift.
Yes, exactly. And so, we were joking before, I'm not in my second act, I'm about in my fourth or fifth act, something like that. So I got into writing, and then when we were living overseas at the time, and so when we got back to the States, got settled, we had some family stuff that we had to work through. And then I got connected to the church that I ended up going on staff and becoming a pastor for. So I spent 10 years doing that, still writing, published my first book. And then in 2022, as the result of several different things, including the pandemic, that church closed its doors. I was burnout. I was depressed. Ministry is a hard, hard road, especially for women. And so I knew that, but it was all in service for the greater good. And yet, in the midst of that, I realized that that really wasn't what I was supposed to be doing, and I needed to take a break from it. So I did. And then I was like, well, I've got one book that's been published, and I was writing 2 more, continued to write. That was a very healing practice for me. I have lots of unfinished projects, but I decided, well, I'll just start a company. I'll publish my own books, hopefully help other people publish, and I'll speak. I've been on stage for the last 10 years. I might as well, go forward with that. And the coaching, again, I kind of stumbled into it. And so now what I'm doing is obviously continuing to evolve because you never stop, but it's the culmination, this fourth or fifth act that has been built by the other things that I've done over the course of my life. Everything, sales, the pastoral side, the writing, just being a mom. I mean, goodness gracious, when I work with clients, that empathetic ear goes a long, long way, but also the business acumen, you have to have that too to help people understand what they're doing in publishing and what they've got to do with the book. It's all kind of culminated into this and now it's taking on its own life. So I write books and I coach women to write their own books, specifically brain centerpieces like your book that really sets up what you do as a coach, what you do in the world, what you're here to offer the world. And writing a book is something that for anybody thinking about it, it's going to clarify your message, it's going to clarify your motivation, and it's going to clarify your mindset. Everything else has to go away if it's not aligned with what you're trying to do in the world.
I love this, and I love that you kind of did what I like to do and take that thread all the way through, and you explained it. You explained how your sales helped you build your business and knowing that business acumen and taking it with you and speaking on stage as a pastor, and it's all culminated into what you're doing now, and that's incredible. That's what I like to inspire people to really take that look of what their life has been like, what they have accomplished, all their past experience, and say, where can this lead me to next? Because you might not be where you are if it wasn't for all of those pieces.
Absolutely. Nothing is wasted. Absolutely not. The good, the bad, the ugly, the wonderful, the shocking, nothing is wasted. Especially for women who are in their 40s and 50s and just of my generation. We were raised to do it all, but we've realized we don't want to do that. What we want to do is make an impact. We want to do less with more impact. And it's just a fascinating place to be to see so many women coming into their own and setting up the next generations to follow their dreams and follow them in a way that is not backed by hustle and grind. There's still a lot of hustle, there's still a lot of grind, but that can't define what we're doing. And that's a big piece of what I coach too, especially in publishing. Success is typically defined by book sales and royalties. And what I tell people all the time, like every day, is that you get to define, especially if you're self-publishing, you get to define how you are successful, and that will continue to evolve. I'm on that journey myself. So as long as things are actionable and reasonable and doable, but still a stretch, you're going to feel a sense of accomplishment, and that's going to want to keep you persevering and keep going to whatever the next is.
Yes. And it's figuring it out, and it's always being open to the opportunities that are around you. And I
Yeah.
just want to take it back to when you decided to be that stay-at-home mom for your girls. You said you started writing because you needed something for yourself. And how
Yes.
did that come about? How did you know it was writing? Had you written before? Or was that just like your outlet, your hobby at the time?
It was really a hobby. I'd always enjoyed writing, and I was a voracious reader.
Mm.
I read constantly. In fact, in that transitionary time after the church closed, that's all I did. Other than take care of my family and work out and take care of myself, that's how I recovered. I read 77 books in a 5-month window. And then I was like, I think I can do this. I'd only written nonfiction up to that point, but I was like, I think I could try this fiction thing. But I was always a reader, and blogging was a very big thing back in the mid to late 2000s, so 2008-ish time. So
Okay.
blogging was something that was very familiar to a lot of people. So I just was like, you know what? Let me document. And if it's just my mom that reads my blog, oh, okay. Let me just document what our daily life is like. And that was the crack in the door that got me exploring my own creative written gifts. I was always
Yeah.
very good speaking wise, but as far as writing, it was finding my voice, finding what I enjoyed writing, finding how that flow worked with me, and not trying to force it. It took me a long time to figure that out, but I stumbled into it. Just decided to try it out. And that's part of my personality too. I just, let's just try things and see what happens.
No regrets. But I
Mhm.
love that that was the crack in the door, as you said, because it's almost like you have to publish that first blog or make that first vulnerable post on social media. Just get your thoughts out. And for people who haven't done that before, who aren't like you and I running an online business, to just do that and say, wow, that felt good. I feel more confident. what else can I do next? It just opens that creativity and you feel that confidence. It says, let me write that next thing. Let me share what I'm thinking to others in a different way. Let's talk about your first book then. What age were you when you published your first book?
Oh, goodness. 42?
Really? Oh, wow. Okay. So, yeah, like I published mine just recently and I'm in my 40s. So,
Yeah, 42, 43. Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I have lots of unfinished projects. Yeah. My first book that was published, and here's the lesson, and I've told the story a bunch, but that was the first manuscript I ever actually finished.
wow.
And I had prayed and I had asked God to help me with the business side because I knew I could go bananas on the business side, but it was the creative and finishing something I knew I struggled with. So it just kind of fell into my lap that I got connected with the publisher. And again, I stumbled into it, but I had to finish that manuscript to present it to them for them to say yes. That was the lesson that if you're dragging your feet on it, yes, you've got to start, but you also have to keep going. That first project is critical, and sometimes you have to make the investment to have people help you finish it, which is why I have a coaching practice, because not everybody is that self-motivated and that driven or has the time or the capacity, any number of things. You have to believe in what you're doing and that the message is important and that it will make an impact, that this is out in the world. This will be in the world to serve the people. And that's a core tenet of what I believe in, that really you can help people and you can make money doing it. There's nothing wrong with them being mutually exclusive. And I can say that being in ministry for 10 years when it was all about just, do it for the Lord. You
Yeah.
don't need to be paid, just do it for the Lord. So there is a value, there's an intrinsic value and a message that people need to hear. And now is the time truly for women.
So your first book was traditionally published. And I'm wondering if
Mhm.
the fact that you had a publisher and you had to finish that manuscript is if that's what drove you and if you were going to self-publish, if you would have finished.
I don't know. Self-publishing is daunting. I've done it 4 times, but my first book, with it being traditionally published, that was the best path for me
Mhm.
because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Oh,
The
yeah.
reason why then I went forward with self-publishing is because I dipped my toe in the water and I wanted to figure it out. I wanted to be in this industry of publishing. If you are running a business, if you are doing something else with your time, let somebody else help you figure out the nuances and the currents of publishing, because it's like in any industry, you have to know what you're doing. And so for me, that experience of having my first book traditionally published, even though they passed on my second book, I did propose my second book to them and they passed.
I've heard that time and time again from
Yeah.
authors.
But I knew when I hit send on that email, that proposal to my publisher, that I wanted to self-publish it, that I wanted to own it this time around. So there's so many different ways to being published. And I love quoting this statistic that 67% of self-published authors are women.
Mm.
Because there still is a barrier to entry in publishing. And there are only so many traditional publishers. There are only so many. So if you really want to get your work out there in a timely manner, self-publishing is the way to go. It's completely different than it was a decade ago.
And you just said what was key for me in deciding to self-publish is the timely manner. For me, and I've said this on the podcast, I wanted to write fiction. And so I was taking an online course to figure out how to write. And then I said, well, that's not going to help me with my business. And I have so much that I can help women with as far as starting businesses and starting their second act, that I want to write a nonfiction and really take what I coach and put it into a book. So I shifted gears, wrote my nonfiction, and I didn't want to do the query letters and send out and waste that time because I knew it can help others. So I said, let me self-publish. And I went down that route and I ended up hiring a team to help me, much like you, Amy. This was before I knew you.
Right.
Yeah, like, but for me, like you to touch on something you said earlier, it was needing that accountability partner. And I had no clue what it meant to get this book out there. And I knew if I didn't invest in myself and having someone help me along, it would never get out.
Yeah.
So that's the way I did it. And I think I would like to try traditional next, but you
Mhm.
just don't know. But the timely manner, I think, is something for people to think about. Do
Yeah.
you want it out soon? Do you want to wait a few years? I love that you know both and you can coach people on both.
It's funny. It's like I tell people, like, you can either invest in the front end in self-publishing and hiring a coach or hiring hybrid or all the services that a traditional publisher will give you, but you're still going to pay for that traditionally published because they own the rights to your book. And you're only going to get about, if you're lucky, $1 a book. That's what I make on my first book. I've sold over 2,000 copies of it over the last 7 years that it's been out. So do the math. I've made $2,000 on it. I've made more than that this year on my self-published books just because I own the rights to it. I own everything. Really, you're either going to pay up front, and I love what you said. You made the investment in yourself because that whole erroneous idea that traditional books are more legitimate, all the same services are available now to self-published authors. You can have a fantastic book, fantastic cover, fantastic formatting, all the things that are appealing in a book, fantastic, well-written content. It doesn't have to be through a company. You're literally going to pay either way. It's just what you want to do and what you're being led to do. And you really have to listen to your intuition on that. So great job listening to your intuition and getting it out there. And here's the other thing I tell people. You still, whether you self-publish or traditional publish, you are still responsible for selling the book.
Oh, yeah.
You have to have a platform. And obviously the traditional publishers are going to look at that. The stories we hear, especially, thanks to Book Talk and the pandemic and, there's no such thing as an overnight success. You have to be positioned for that. People that went viral, and especially in the fantasy world, Sarah J. Maas and the romance, Allie Hazelwood, that were picked up by readers, they'd been writing for years. They had a backlog. It's just one of those things that you have to have yourself positioned no matter what you do. It's not a strategy to go on social media and post your book every day. That's not a strategy. There's so much that goes into it. It's a business. And that's why I love that we're talking about this. Having a book is meant to drive your business, not just you be a slave to the marketing of your book. So,
Yeah, so true. And it's like what we were joking about off camera earlier is that, unless you're James Patterson or someone that's huge that gets paid to write these books and then have a whole team to promote it and all that, that's just not realistic. You may not make a great amount of money or even your money back on your book, but if you want to say in your second act or third or fourth that you want to be an author, if this is a dream you've had and you want to write it, I still say go for it. Don't do it as a moneymaker,
right.
and if you're writing nonfiction because it's going to support your business and what you're promoting to your clients, that's one thing. Or if you just want to write fiction because you are a reader and you've enjoyed it and you want to say that you've done it, that's okay too. It's just making sure that you are not going to regret not writing that book at the end of your life.
Absolutely. And I would say too, you can make the money back on your book. You just have to have a strategy for it. And you have to have a wider lens. It can't just be about book sales and royalties. Like for you, you make your money back by clients signing up with you, by people signing up for online courses and online programs. It just has to be a wider lens. And so many people just have that the blinders on that it has to, I'm only going to make my money back on my book if my book makes money.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. That's not how I'm in the black. That's not how I'm successful.
No, same.
One day I will be, but it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
So as long as you keep things in perspective, and I talk about this a lot too, the strategy behind a book is actually a vision. It's a business plan, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, if this is something you want to do. If you just want to write fiction because you love fiction, do it. Oh my gosh, do it. Writing is so necessary and it's such a healing activity. But if this is something that you really want to enhance your life, then you've got to treat it. You've got to handle it differently than it's just a book. There's definitely a vision that's necessary behind what you're doing. And then that gives you the ability to persevere and to continue in the long run. So, because you just never know.
You don't. And I think, I want to speak to the woman who might be listening to this show right now, listening to our conversation, who just needs something for herself, which was how you began, and just needs that outlet to be creative. And for me, when I started writing the book, and I've written for television in my first career, written for my blogs and all of that, but sitting down and really getting creative and forming the story and putting it together became such an incredible hobby for me, where for my kids, I would say, okay, I'm going to go write for 90 minutes every Monday evening, and they knew that I was going to close the door. And when I would get in there alone with my thoughts, there was something so creative and it just became something I looked so forward to. And I
Yeah,
think there's women who are just looking for that escape, something that's them. And it's okay to just write for fun too. You never know where
absolutely.
that will lead. And I think that's important. And that's how you began. And now look at you having,
Right.
how many books do you have out now?
I have 5 out.
That is amazing. 5 books and a business. I guess I wanna just say that it doesn't have to be all these books and a business. It's just starting
Oh,
somewhere and being open to see where it leads.
exactly. I had no idea that I was gonna end up here. I didn't even know when I started my company in January of 2023 that it would lead here. I had no clue. And so having that receptivity to what could be is really amazing because, when I work with clients, we always goal set. We always strategize. We always have a vision. And it's so funny because every single time I tell them, we're going to go with these goals, but they're too small. You will see that they are too small. When I partner with an author, it's usually a year-long partnership. It's one of those things where you start somewhere and then over the course of the year, your mind just gets blown because when you start getting in alignment, when you get that message is clear, you can tell I'm a former preacher because I use alliteration a lot. Your motivation, your message, and your mindset get clear. When those three things are in alignment, and that's where the place you're moving from, stuff just starts coming to you little by little. Things start to build, and it's just you can try to have all the foresight in the world, but you're taking a leap of faith and jumping into the void, and you just have to trust that there's going to be something on the other side that catches you, which is generally you. Your future self is going to catch you.
I love that. That just gave me chills. When you decided, okay, I've written these books, now I'm going to start coaching others. What did you have to shift in your mindset to say, okay, now I'm going to help others and be this business leader doing this? Were you worried that you would lose the creativity in writing as an author?
So that's been something I've kind of figured out along the way. The more clients I get, the more reading I'm doing, the less pleasure reading I'm doing. And the pleasure reading, because I've got to do research and I've got to hone my craft and that kind of thing. That's not fun reading, right? That's not pleasurable reading. But I'm also very bougie when it comes to books. I can't just pick up any book off the shelf and enjoy it. It's something that has to be well written for me. And so I've had to navigate that, the balance of it, that when I'm writing, I know I'm gonna be reading a lot of client work, and it's early writing. I'm reading what's called zero drafts.
Yes.
So I'm not reading the finished product, right? I'm not reading the manuscript that's been edited 3 times. I'm reading the raw material. And so it's been really, really interesting for me to have to, especially now I'm writing my 6th book. I'm almost done with the zero draft of it. It's been real interesting to try and figure out, because my coaching practice has picked up, where in my life I need to do that creative work. Because I can tell you, I know the days. It's been a couple of days since I've written. Today is one of those days. I have a greater thrum of anxiety because that creative energy has built up within me and I need to let it out. And so this is something I would say too for women is, we are born to create. That is what we are here on earth to do. So if you're struggling with anxiety, you literally might just need to create something. It doesn't have to be writing. It could be painting. It could be whatever. It could be cooking, just something you love to do, something that pours back into you as you pour it out. That helps a lot with anxiety because you're then channeling the gifts you've been given. Every season is different. And so in writing, there's no perfect time to start writing your book. I wrote 3 books in the middle of a divorce, but you just have to go with that flow and you have to get to know yourself well enough to say, okay, I recognize I need it. Like you would sit down that Monday for 90 minutes and just let it flow. Whatever came out, you let it go. And so, it's a journey, and that's the most important thing to remember is that who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
4 years ago, I didn't know what was gonna happen.
No.
3 years ago, I didn't know what was gonna happen. I'm along for the ride just like everybody else. and I get a little more experience every day. And so I can kind of try and like direct things, but in the end, it's all up to somebody else.
Yes, you're
Yes.
absolutely right. It's amazing that you took something that you were so passionate about, reading, writing, books in general, you created a business around it, helping others, and you're still able to write. Like, so you're really taking everything that you're truly passionate about and putting it into this second, third, fourth, fifth act of yours.
Yeah.
And that's an incredible feat to be able to be in this position. How does it feel to be where you are right now?
It feels really, truly wonderful. I love what I do. And I can trend towards workaholism. I mean, that's the reason why I was burnt out after I was in ministry, is
Yeah.
because I would work all the time, especially when it's something that you really love to do. But I feel like all the pieces with this are in place now. And so, and also knowing that I have to be in balance. I think about this. I would be a terrible coach if I didn't keep writing, if I didn't keep my skills sharp and help people and just, if I wasn't learning and continuing to grow. But it really feels like, at 50 years old, I have the foundation. It was all necessary. Nothing was wasted. And I lived into every single one of those seasons. And now I'm able to truly own it. And that's why I think women in their 40s and 50s are really coming into their own, because they recognize and are able to own it. Our energy isn't going everywhere into everyone else. We're able to say, you know what, it's my time now.
Beautifully said. And I think also if we can find something that we enjoy, some passion of ours, and make that into something that brings us money as well, it's like you said, that is the key for anyone. If it's, teaching art classes, if it's teaching dance, like whatever it is that you really love, if you can find a way to make money and create a business around it, that's the key to really feeling like you're not working. You're doing what you love and what you're good at and sharing that with the world.
I tell my kids this all the time. I love what I do. And also there are days when I'm like, I can't wait till it's Saturday and I can sleep in.
That's the beauty of being your own boss, though, is and there's something about that at this stage in our lives that we can say, we're making this happen because this is where we're at. We're not listening to anyone else. And this is truly the place that we're supposed to be.
We can't continue to let other people's expectations, our own shame, our own programming, and our own egos get in the way of what we're here and meant to do. It's 2025. Ladies, it is time to stop playing small.
Well, so for anyone who's listening and wants to work with you, where can they connect with you?
If you want to talk to me personally, anything up about my books or look at what I offer, most things, schedule a call for free discovery calls. Because look, let's just talk about story. I just want to do that. And then, of course, I'm on social media on Instagram and TikTok. I'm on LinkedIn too, but much, much more on Instagram. So that's AW Vogel on Instagram. And then everywhere else, AW Vogel. So
Fantastic. I'll link to everything and tell us about your book that you're writing now. What can we expect from
and
that when that comes out?
yes, number six, book number six. It is called Bejeweled. It's a historical fiction. And it is also a blend of my past. I loved studying the Old Testament as a pastor, loved leading Bible studies. A couple years ago, it occurred to me that this new feminine expression that we're going through right now, that maybe some of the women in the Bible got a bad rap.
Mm.
So this new book is a retelling of Queen Jezebel from the Old Testament, who is typically portrayed as a big bad villain. And I'm retelling her story as the hero. And so it's my brand centerpiece book. It is really the thing that's going to define me, that at this moment in time is that culmination of my past into the present. And it's been a lot of fun to write, because I know it's going to push a lot of people's buttons, but it's also, especially for women who have deconstructed from church hurt, going to give them a lot of hope. I'm big on changing the way the world sees women. And so this is the next effort in that mission.
It sounds incredible.
And I'll make the caveat, this is not a Christian book. This is a spicy historical romance. It's not smut. It's not on every page, but women, part of being a woman is owning our sexuality. And so that's part of the story too. So when I tell people that, they're like, but this is about the Bible. I'm like, yeah.
Amy, this was fantastic. I loved hearing your whole career transition story from way back when till now and the business that you've built and your career as an author. So congratulations on all of it.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm really honored to to have been a witness because we started talking before your book ever came out, and it wasn't even like I was pitching you. I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I love your cover. I love what you're doing. Let's stay connected." So,
I'm so happy that we have this friendship and that we can support each other. And I'm so excited to get this out to everyone. And thank you so much for all you've shared.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some gems of inspiration and some takeaways to help you on your path to second act success. To view show notes from this episode, visit secondactsuccess.co. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Reviews only take a few moments and they really do mean so much. Thank you again for listening. I'm Shannon Russell, and this is Second Act Success.